Go.
Hey, they've been friends going on 20 years and now stepping into one of the most dangerous behaviors of a lifetime, having an opinion and openly talking about it on the internet. It's Pinche and the Gringo.
And yeah, we're back. Awesome.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's not like we're just not talking for like a couple hours already or something like
The
that.
fight we have every time to not talk too much before we can get into the show.
It's tough. It's tough because we kind of want to come in and make good points, like on the show when it happens. But we'll make our good points. But yeah. We're focusing on a main one, talking about Trump versus Twitter, which is happening like right now. Like stuff is happening today about it.
Still going. Did you see the tweet that came,
yeah.
or the comment to our post on Facebook?
Yes.
Was that the best comment ever? I don't want to call him
Oh,
out.
the one that was sent today?
Yeah, it was actually.
Oh no, I didn't see it.
So we post our show on our own timeline so that people know we're going to go live at 7. And a friend of ours pointed out stuff. It was hilarious because it depends on if you're the right type of movie fan. But I think they're both wrong. Here we are. He's on neither side of the argument, but he thinks both of them are wrong. And the only true way for any of this to be resolved is for Trump and Jack Dorsey to fight it out in the Thunderdome. Considering the amount of money that was raked in with the Jake Paul fight, I think this could make some money. We might be able to solve a national debt with a Thunderdome battle between Dorsey, the CEO, and Trump. That would be awesome. I wonder if we could get Tina Stas' earrings.
Do it.
2-man enter. 2-man enter, 1-man leave.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. What else we have going?
We're kind of open to topics beyond that, but that one definitely carries.
That one's going to take the majority of our time. There's other things that are happening right now, and there's a lot of things that we can say about it, but this is going to take up the majority of our time. But first up, here's what it kind of like entirely started off the thing. Trump posted on Twitter a tweet about mail-in voter fraud in California, and that being open in California because everybody's gonna like have voter fraud because of it. And of course, if he doesn't win, he's gonna
contest it.
Contest it. Oh, it was voter
fraud.
Twitter put a fact-checking link under that tweet, which that tweet is gone now. It's not on his Twitter account any longer.
Yeah, totally deleted. So, but you got to love the internet, man. What do they say? The Streisand effect and stuff. If you don't want to draw attention to something, then you really shouldn't put it on the internet. And then you really shouldn't tell people to take it down, or you take it down yourself. Because the tweets were, there's no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mailboxes will be robbed, ballots will be forged, and even illegally printed out and fraudulently signed. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people. Anyone living in the state, no matter who they are, how they got there, will get one. And that'll be followed up with professionals telling all of these people, many of whom have never even thought of voting before, how and for whom to vote. And this would be a rigged election, no way. So the get the facts thing, they put get the facts about mail-in ballots beneath both of those tweets. Mm-hmm. The other aspect is that governor didn't say that, like he's mailing them to everybody, right?
Right.
This wasn't his specific.
It has to be done at request. For number one, not everybody gets it. It has to be done at request, and you have to be a registered voter. It's not just anybody off the street can say, "Hey, give me this form and I can mail it in."
Yeah, you can't initiate a new voter registration either through mail because
Right.
of the checks and balances in that. And he's talking about due to COVID-19, May 8th, 2020, Gavin Newsom issued Executive Order N6420, among other things, orders the November 3rd, 2020 general election to be conducted as an all-mail ballot election. Accordingly, all registered voters in California will receive a vote by mail ballot in the mail prior to the election.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a registered voter already, then you're going to receive a ballot.
Right.
That's what it's saying here. But then that leads two ways. So we can go down Trump's path, right? Saying that there's going to be fraudulent. Oh man, I know a lot of people who are probably just going to be sitting outside of other people's mailboxes going, I'm stealing that dude's ballot. Probably not. But let's look on the other side of this is who else is this eliminating? If you're not already, when do you need to be a registered voter by when to make sure you get your ballot? Otherwise, aren't you also eliminating valid or new potential voters from the process so that you can do a mail-in ballot too?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
I mean, we saw what happened, wasn't it, Wisconsin, when they went ahead and did in-person voting, and a lot of folks, because of how new COVID was and the lack of precautions and knowledge on it at that point, a lot of folks still voted. A lot of folks stayed home, and then can't quote me on it, but I don't recall if there was a spike in COVID cases or not beyond that election time frame.
I don't know.
Let me see if it shows it a little bit more in here.
They're going to have to be more clean. They're going to have to be a lot more clean at the voter sites this year, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So let me drop you. Did I drop you that link for what the spokesperson said?
No, I didn't see that.
Where are you?
I don't know.
I'm fighting with Skype. It's like, no. There we are. User interface is on the left of Skype. Yeah. The chat for it is on the right, on a button that's on the right. Who is their UI person?
I didn't get anything.
It'll come through on chat.
Okay. I still didn't get it.
It's there. I swear it's there.
I can't see it. Should probably post it on thing.
Or give it to somebody
on the
else.
Document.
Just went to somebody at some random conversation. They're like, whoa,
what is this?
What's this dude's problem? I haven't talked to him in 10 years. And
being a jerk.
Stuff about Twitter spokesperson.
Put it on our shared document.
It's there.
Oh. That one right there, number 8?
No, go below 9, and there's the actual quote, because I didn't want you to have to dig through that full story.
So, Twitter spokesperson Katie Rosborough told USA Today that the 2 tweets contain potentially misleading information about voting process and have been labeled to provide additional context around mail-in ballots. This decision is in the line with the approach we shared earlier this month.
Yeah, and that one carries to they say earlier that month, but they also go as far back as like early March, because they were doing the same thing on broadening the policy on misleading information.
We'll get,
right?
Like everybody's been talking about what are we going to do when we vote because of the COVID-19 virus. Yeah. And how are we going to be able to go through and make sure everybody that should have the right to vote gets to vote.
What was the validity on the voter fraud by mail? Weren't you mentioning you had seen something about the actual numbers around what? I mean, voter fraud in general. We've seen different discussions and different things regarding voter fraud, but specifically to mail-in ballots. Is Trump's fears of of a entire state's voting system being hijacked out of their mailbox conspiracy or legit? Is there anything in, because we haven't, this is unprecedented, right? We've never been to a point where we've like, well, everybody's going to vote from their living room. If you'd like to vote for a Republican, swing your Wii remote to the left. If you'd like to vote Democrat, swing your Wii remote to the right.
I know there's been over the years several voters that are deceased before the actual vote was counted. Or
So
was
they
deceased
cast
before,
their vote through mail.
No, they passed even before it was the ability to cast a vote.
But somehow their vote came through.
But their vote came through.
So voter fraud.
But I don't know if that was mail-in or not.
Okay.
It was never said. It would never said it was mail-in.
If they did a mail-in ballot, and for whatever reason, what are the? I guess we could speak to Texas. So what is Texas's mail-in voting? What does that process look like?
Well,
Applications for ballot by mail. To be eligible to vote early by mail in Texas, you have to be 65 years or older, be disabled, be out of the county on election day and during the period for early voting by personal appearance, be out of the county on election day and during the period for early voting by personal appearance, or be confined in jail but otherwise eligible. So you're not physically in the county during the early voting period. You're also out of the county on the specific election day, or you are confined. You submit a request form. You can also submit a request for that form online. Well, that's it. Essentially 65 years or older, disabled, or completely out of the county during voting. During early voting, and that's for early by mail, to vote early by mail.
Yeah, and Texas leans Republican, so it's probably not going to change.
But I mean, still in that aspect, we could reasonably assume, without being morbid, that a person who's 65 years or older does their request through vote by mail, cast their vote, submit, and then passes on. Maybe that's the scenario that fits what you're referring to.
No, but that's still a vote. But if they go and request it and a mail-in form comes in, I guess I'm assuming that person passes away before they get that form, and that form is sent.
It's voter fraud.
That's voter fraud, yes.
Yeah, it's definitely voter fraud.
I don't know how that has been proven anywhere. I haven't seen any numbers on it.
Yeah, and it's what is the validation? Because what validates the accuracy of the voter casting the vote? Right. So I mean, we should probably let's return. That's another conversation. Is when we get closer, how do we validate it? So let's kind of drop back on Twitter's reasoning for how they actually came about this whole thing. So we've seen it with YouTube. YouTube starts putting stuff under videos. Anybody, if you accidentally just say the word COVID-19 in a YouTube video, all of a sudden you're getting fact checked below your video, I believe. I don't think we've been hit. We've mentioned it probably every video we've had. But I think if there's anything talked in the video about the illness in itself and relates to snake oil treatment, poor medical advice, or the person in the video is actually not a medical professional, then you get that COVID fact checker underneath. Twitter's approach to it was exactly the same way, as them adding new labels and warnings. And COVID-19 was especially the trigger for it, but it was it goes farther. So theirs also plays into misleading information, disputed claims, or unverified claims. So misleading information is statements or assertions that have been confirmed to be false or misleading by subject matter experts such as public health authorities. So we could probably say vaccines would fall into that one.
Right.
So if you're anti-vaxxing a tweet, kind of that's your subject matter of your tweet is anti-vaxxing or something, you'd probably have a misleading information below it. Misleading information has, if it's moderate, it'll just get the label. But if it's a severe misleading information, it's going to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping into disputed claims, statements or assertions in which the accuracy, truthfulness, or credibility of the claim is contested or unknown, which I believe is where Trump's tweets fell into, because him talking about voter fraud, I didn't get to read what came up when you clicked on that fact check. But that's where I think his would fall in, because it's a statement. There's no real accuracy to that, right?
Right.
To that voter mailed in voter fraud. That the credibility of the claim is contested or unknown, and it does similar on a moderate content. And I'm not sure how they determine moderate or severe.
And if I would just
moderate,
hear like numbers of something, well, give me numbers.
Right.
Give me some true numbers. But even then, you can't trust numbers either, because they're fake too.
Yeah, people can. You see how data is read all the time, or just reorganized to actually fit the person's narrative. So when I see somebody present data, that's probably the first thing I do is I look at the person presenting the data and determine on their trustworthiness of whether I even want to look at their data. Because especially if you know they're known for some type of agenda or leaning, you're like this, I bet you $10 this supports that argument, and you're almost always going to be right. So disputed claim is either going to get labeled or you're going to get a warning. And then an unverified claim is just information which could be true or false that is unconfirmed at the time it is shared. If it's a moderate, no action. Severe is also no action, but they continue to introduce new labels to provide context around the different types of unverified claims and rumors as needed. So I don't see this as a problem. I mean, if I put something in and it's not true, and Twitter on a private platform goes and throws a label underneath my tweet.
Right. Be it if somebody looked through it and posted that, or it been a bot because the word mail fraud was in there, mail voter fraud.
Right, just fits that. Yeah, it's the search and it's like, oh, keyword.
Yeah.
And then the bot trips to that. That
well, just like on Geek Out SA, we were doing a show about how to do geeky things during the quarantine. Well, I get one of those links on YouTube, COVID-19 information on there. So it's the same kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So instead of, I didn't remember them saying that it was that they would pop up just to continually attempt to provide information on the illness. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that kind of makes sense. But geez, I haven't seen them hit ours on just providing information, which I'm not sure what it linked over to. I mean, the one thing we all know, and this is where people get very aggravated. So I always see the posts from people like, oh, I was punted off of Facebook for 3 days. I was in Facebook jail because I made a comment they didn't like or a post they didn't like. And as much as I'm perfectly fine with Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram monitoring your content. However, if you're going to do that, stop lying you're supporters of free speech. Because if you're censoring somebody's content, deleting or removing it, regardless of its volatility, you're not supporting free speech.
But you agreed to the terms and conditions.
Right. But that's what I mean. I'm agreeing to your terms and service, and you guys can delete my stuff. But don't come out with a white cape on and a cowboy hat saying, I support free speech. By the way, I deleted your tweet. then you don't support free speech in that aspect. They hide behind it and use it as a sales practice of saying, hey, we support free speech, but they delete and remove your content. Now, granted, they may be saving some people from posting some really stupid things by removing that stuff, whatever that fits within their ever-changing goalpost of rules and terms of service. But it's still not free speech. Because what did we say, right? You and I both agreed on it. It's free speech, but it's not free of consequences.
Right.
So
yeah, but wouldn't that be a consequence?
I don't know if I align it. I see your point to it. I do see your point to it, but I'm not sure if that aligns as a consequence.
Just like if you have like a Facebook group, you're going in, there are guidelines that you have to abide by. If not, your post can be deleted because you're not abiding by the guidelines.
I'd look at that a little bit deeper.
Your post,
because it's a group.
If someone is posting pornography, don't you think that should, and there's guidelines that say that you can't post pornography?
Absolutely. Then that completely fits. But YouTube does, or Facebook doesn't have a you can't post pornography.
I think they do.
That's what I mean.
I think they do. Yeah.
That's the other thing. We've already found ourselves going outside of bounds for our show. We're going into places. We're gonna need to use Tor browsers pretty soon because we're going places on the internet that no man wants to go. But or we've blocked a user and now we're unblocking them, going, wait, let's see what that person said. We're gonna find ourselves like knee deep in the terms of service of something, just reading every single line.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's beneficial to us. But then in that leads, so we talk about free speech and then where that leads us. And we've talked about what they're doing with their specific categories and topics of it. And so what was Trump was livid, dude.
Oh, he was mad. He threatens them with an executive order.
Which we'll actually get into because he signed that thing today.
Today. He just did it today. And then yesterday he was like touting about it. I was like, yeah, this is going to happen. This is going to happen Thursday. So I was like, wow.
I don't even have my stuff together enough to say something will happen by a Thursday. But so one of his follow-up tweets is Twitter is now interfering with the 2020 presidential election, saying the statement on mail-in ballots, which will lead to massive corruption and fraud, is incorrect, based on fact-checking by fake news CNN and the Amazon Washington Post. So did that I would kind of question. I wish I could see, and I don't think we have anybody in chat who may have been lucky enough for us to be able to see it. But what happened? What did you see when you clicked on that stuff? Because if you're being fact checked, shouldn't that be a like almost unquestionably reliable source? If I'm going to link people out to something, shouldn't that link regarding specifically this type of content be a virtually unbiased, undeniable source of that subject matter?
Yeah, but then what's unbiased now?
That's a good question, but CNN and Washington Post as valid resources of content on voter fraud? Where are they the authorities on mail-in voter fraud?
Give me the numbers. Government should be the authority on that. That's checking that. So it would be the state, it would be the county.
Well, you're at an all-time new level, I think, of distrust. Because I'm just like, oh, great, we're actually going to ask the government to check themselves. Hey, if it's
But they're not going
if it's
to.
actually in the entire URL, voterfraudfacts.com, that makes it viable, right? I mean, that, of course, this is going to have to be a resource. But that's
the best.
I mean, even if you were the person building that notification, I mean, wouldn't that trip you up a little bit? Who decided CNN and Amazon are valid resources for that? If that's it. I'm reading Trump's tweet, so I'm assuming that's where it linked out to, so it could be totally wrong. But it was specifically targeting California. It came a few days after the Republican Party launched the legal battle to block California governor from sending all voters in his state to mail in ballots for the general election, arguing the move is unconstitutional and invites voter fraud. So his threats essentially, there is actually nothing he could do. Legitimately,
baseless, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's really nothing he can do. They're private companies, privately held. They have their own terms of service that the users have agreed to, which, hey, I'm pretty sure he didn't read either when he clicked OK or I agree. And within that terms of service, you're giving any rights and access up essentially with the terms of service.
Right.
And he is just as us. He signed on to it as well. So it goes after the only thing he knows that maybe it's not going to be an accurate statement here, but I think does leave Silicon Valley shaking in its boots. And that's him trying to mess with their protections under the Communications Decency Act, Section 230.
Mm-hmm.
And that just essentially would be trying to turn them into publishers. Right. Versus Section 230 covers them as internet computer service or information content providers. They're intermediaries or content providers, which essentially gives them a wall of liability protection of, I post something extremely inflammatory and stupid on the internet.
Right.
Probably done it before. They're not liable. You can't go after them.
Right.
In that aspect.
As it should be. They're not posting it. You're posting it.
I remember this, and I'm trying to remember my argument for why they shouldn't have the 230 protection.
Because I knew this was going to be a good one. I know we were going to differ a little bit when it came to this.
Yeah, because I mean, it's definitely the author is the one who is definitely liable for it, right? I mean, and so to that point, I definitely agree. They should have those protections. To enjoy those protections, I wonder if I'll say that I'm probably undereducated in the whole picture here of just what 230 means to them. Mm-hmm. And if we dug through their terms of service, how some of the things they have within that terms of service may not necessarily line up with a 230 protection, but would actually lean them more to a publisher, which, from what I understand, would be along typical media, typical press. What do you think of that liability protection there with 230?
I think they should have that protection there. It's not what they posted. Now, if it's something they posted, yeah, they should be liable for that, whatever they post. But if it's you or I posting something, that's left up to us. We should suffer those consequences. And if it's something that they need to remove, then they need to remove that.
True, yeah.
Like, you're never going to have me post on my Facebook 2 little kids in a school fight. Never going to do that. But if you post something like that, that's something that they're going to pull down. Should that be covered under free speech?
Nah, I think that splits hairs to types of speech. So that's definitely, we look at that as definitely something that's promoting violence. It's also, It's also could possibly fall into
But those are the things that
other aspects of videotaping and minors.
that's
So
what
there's a lot of legal aspects there
Twitter
too.
and Facebook and Google, and that's the kind of stuff that they're filtering out.
Right. Right.
And if you're
Yeah, 'cause
saying
actually,
that they can't do that anymore, then what does that mean? The kind of stuff that we can have on there then it's like open.
have you
For
ever had
whatever.
anything taken down on one of these platforms?
Never.
Yeah, come to think of it, me either. And I'm sure I post brilliant gems of things across all these valid social media sites. Gems of wisdom and knowledge, I'm sure. No. No. But no, I haven't had anything taken down in that aspect as well. But the thing that I think they'd cease to exist. If we lost 230, it wouldn't be like an overnight disappearance, but the entire landscape for social media as companies and the business models that they utilize would have to change overnight, because without 230, they get sued.
Mm-hmm.
And not a little.
A
The amount
lot,
of frivolous
yeah.
lawsuits we have in the United States as it is already a phenomenally high number.
Mm-hmm.
But to then add in the somebody hurt my feelings on the internet, so I'm suing Facebook lawsuits.
Yeah.
And then they also cover, there's another aspect in here regarding protection for the Good Samaritan, blocking and screening of offensive material. So I'm reading from the Legal Information Institute, Open Access to Law, specifically on the Communications Decency Act. And this is in part of the Section 230, but essentially civil liability, protection, Good Samaritan, blocking and screening of offensive material, treatment of a publisher or speaker. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. And I think this plays to blogging. So essentially, if you're not the curator of the content, but you as a blogger take that, the content is you host the blog,
Mm-hmm.
you host the blog, and I, as a guest writer, post some offensive material.
Right.
In that aspect of the Good Samaritan blocking, you can't get sued. Because as a blogger, you fall under that 230 portion as an information content provider. I'm still the author, so
Mm-hmm.
the liability still falls to me. And then civil liability, no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be held liable on account of any action taken in good faith to restrict access or availability of material that the provider or user considers to be obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessive, violent, harassing, or otherwise unobjectionable, whether or not such material is constitutionally protected. So that actually throws a wall right up in front of my free speech possibilities. Because I'm thinking, well, hey, if you post something that's just completely asinine, it falls under free speech and they shouldn't be able to delete that. I was wrong. That was wrong thinking. I didn't understand the law specifically because they're acting under 230 in the Good Samaritan aspect by voluntarily taking in good faith to remove that content.
Right.
Lesson learned. Educated. Look at this, man. I get smarter every show.
We learn something every day. Yeah.
I feel less dumb every show. I don't see, I mean, it's like we agreed. They're private entities, right? They're private businesses, and we sign up for that stuff when we hit the I agree. So
if you don't want them to take your stuff down, then pick another platform that won't take your stuff down. I'm sure there's some out there. Put up your own website. You can put whatever you want on your own website.
Yeah, it's essentially, if we want to, I mean, we can continue to, no matter what, everything regarding a software or platform or community, all of that stuff grows from the comments, complaints, and encouragement from the users themselves. So it's definite that the audience will continue to yell, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if they take your stuff down and you don't like what's going on, it's a very easy answer. because Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram are the very same as you walking up to the front door of a privately owned business. If you don't like that business, don't do business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like if you're going into, and Facebook and Twitter don't do this. If you're going into a store and you're cussing up a store, and there's other customers in there, the owner's not going to want you in that store, right? And if he doesn't want you, he's going to tell you to get out.
Exactly.
Let me censor your speech out of my business.
Yeah, it's free speech. You have the right to say whatever you want.
You want to talk? Yeah. If you want to talk like that, go to another place that'll let you talk like that, but you can't hear.
Yeah, oh, that makes sense.
And then Facebook will let you cuss up a storm. They don't censor you for that.
They don't censor. So then that plays to another conversation we'll bring back in the future, is the ability to limit content to the proper age groups.
Mm-hmm.
Because you remember the days of where there was no way they could do it, and then you had what was it? Was it the Child Online Decency Act that put in play, where you have to have the I completely solemnly swear that I'm 13 years or older.
Yeah.
Click OK. But then didn't that escalate for a short period of time, late 90s, early 2000s, where a lot of sites went to have your parent log in and provide a credit card number. Mm-hmm. And the credit wasn't going to be billed or anything like that, but the credit card number was the way of that site being able to say that,
to verify you, yeah.
Which still, I mean, even that can be done fraudulently, but then it got pulled back. So we'll definitely return to that conversation down the road for sure. So what is Trump's actual order? Did you have that up?
I didn't. Let me get it. It is by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, Policy. Free speech is the bedrock of American democracy. Our founding fathers protected this sacred right with the First Amendment to the Constitution. The freedom to express and debate ideas is foundation to all of our rights as free people.
Right. So he goes straight to it. He tries to use free speech, obviously, is the very first thing that he's going to try and sail his ship on.
But free speech is very broad.
Yeah.
It's always been very broad.
Yeah. I mean, we're not legal scholars, but you and I just essentially trumped the free speech aspect right out the window in the previous couple of minutes. So in this, what is this going to yield? If he goes on free speech, then we just wind up with a bunch of Silicon Valley folks who have pockets as deep as his in the real world. But technically, if he goes to war over this in a legal battle, we're losing, because he's just blowing our tax dollars and our public servant roles into frivolous lawsuit. So you want me to take section 2, and then you want to see what's in. I think there was another section down below that.
Well, he called, like, in this section, in the same section, he calls Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube wield immense, if not unprecedented, power to shape and interpret the public events, to censor, delete, or disappear information, and to control what people see or do not see.
Do you want to go down that path? Because you and I had an interesting conversation. I think I kind of took it a little conspiracy, but it kind of fit. But we talked about groups. How do you think that affects here? If we look at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube, and we talk about our concerns, where his concern is they're limiting conservative voices, right?
Right.
And through our conversations, we said that they were limiting or censoring conservative voices. We'll use YouTube for the example. Was it Jim Poole, the quartering, Sargon of Akkad, trying to think of a few others, Count Dankula, those types of folks who have a dedicated community of followers who have the notification bell ring and want to know every time they post a video, and they never get those notifications. Mm-hmm. Additionally, they don't even show up in search results in some cases.
Right.
So I mentioned that to me potentially being either the shape of an agenda or purposefully censoring those specific voices. But you had another perspective of that.
Well, I mean, they don't push my stuff because I'm a smaller. Is that where you were going?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm a smaller. I have a smaller channel and I have a smaller Facebook group. So they don't push my stuff anyway. So it's like it doesn't really get with everybody else that's not getting it anyway.
Small, right? Big or small. Because so we know they're going to push larger YouTube creators' content to people who aren't specifically part of their community already, because they're trying to drive that content creator's value up, which racks up their CPM, racks up their per view volume, and just lines the pocket of YouTube. And the situation that I see to censorship possibility is the fact that those specific folks I mentioned, as well as you and I on our own channels, we have specific people who want our content, and they've done all the dings, subscribe, like a bell thingy, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And in this particular set of people that we're talking about, which would be some of the voices that I imagine he would be referring to if he pointed out any, are silenced in that manner that, one, their content doesn't get pushed to people who are not already in their community. Mm-hmm. And then those who are even in their community aren't even being notified when their new content is posted.
Maybe they're having a gateway glitch to where it's not.
I've been following it too long. This isn't new. This is a few years worth of this stuff. Because I mean, I follow a lot of a wide variety of people. Mm-hmm. Some that are off the wall, but specifically because I just want to hear the stupid takes they have. Right.
Right.
I want to go, okay, what kind of dumb thing is this person saying about that topic? And I won't see their stuff.
Because there's like one whole video on Geek Out SA. It was for Matt Fantastic, and that was about with him and the guy from the Quartering getting into a little tiff thing at Gen Con.
Oh, no way. I have to,
yeah.
Oh, okay. I have to remember that, because I think he still speaks of this incident.
Yeah.
Because I think it's one of the things that cost him his, or one of the things they used as ammunition for his lifetime ban from Magic, right?
Yeah.
On the Quartering. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into
it. It's for some of the things that he said in his show, on his channel. It wasn't for that.
Is this
reason.
Along the line with the judges? Because we don't want to say the P word in a video. It'll definitely get us. We're not even monetized, not worried about it. But they'd be like, that video is not going beyond the bottom of the bucket. Because he, which was later found out, from what I understand, by fact checking, that there was actually essentially, we'll say, Catholic priest among the reffing of Magic the Gathering tournaments. Mm-hmm. Very similar, like-minded folks as Catholic priests were the referees. So, but looking at like Dankula's stuff, and you watch him for a while, you see the complaint about people not getting notifications sent out from YouTube when new content goes live. And it was originally thought that you weren't pushing enough content. The Quartering pushes anywhere from 5 to 7 videos a day, and you don't get his notices. I've just started disabling them, and I don't even enable them for people. I just subscribe and go and look for their content manually now, because I know I'm going to find it. But the ones that I still keep belled and notifications turned on, I don't see them come through. So I wonder if that's.
But it's
If
not
that's where it's
censor. But is it considered censoring if it's still there? It's still there.
That's true. Is it
You
considered?
could go. You could go
censoring?
to his channel at any time and see any video that he has up.
That's true. Because is failure to promote content on a private platform censorship?
Just like we used to work for a bank. We don't have to give you access to online. But we
Right,
are.
Sure. But in that same, but I think we know the answer to the question I just asked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is not promoting somebody's stuff on a platform
Censorship.
And I guess that's no.
Mm-mm.
Because it doesn't mean it's, if you were stifling, I guess we can, so let's look at censorship we'll take it to this next point after this, but let's look at censorship on the other aspect of it, not in a promoting, but in a burying, which is the other common complaint I see, burying of my content. I don't understand how you would bury content on YouTube. That's just the same as not promoting it. If you're already at the bottom and we don't promote you, we're not burying you, right?
Right.
10,000 videos per minute, I believe, is the actual upload number to YouTube. It's insane. So I guess if you're on the bottom of the pile, they're not purposely burying you. You just have.
And right now the algorithm goes through view time. The amount of time you spend on somebody's channel.
Is there boosting point or
is their boosting point? Unless they're trying to promote, like one time they did 4K. Another time it was live streams.
Oh,
so I had one night where I went from like 20 concurrent viewers to like 1,000 concurrent viewers.
So they're working through categories. I do remember. Yeah. I remember that live stream. It was pretty sweet. So then, is it censorship? No. I think, from my opinion, it's no. It's not.
From my opinion, it's not.
Because I still lean into what I try and do is put myself into that private business shoes. If I was running a private business and I'm dealing with this type of content or issue, how would I want to be able to handle it, and the laws that articles they have in place. Granted, you went to another point in an offline conversation is how they use the advertising stuff and your clicks and your views to feed you specific content that they think you'll click on based on interest or likes.
Right.
Which interest or likes could be the fact that you click on 98% 4x4 and off-road channels or this, and that's what they're going to feed you.
Right.
So that being legit, because why are they going to feed you content like that? They know you're going to click on, and that's where they're getting money, right?
A lot of what I see on Facebook and YouTube is Facebook, and YouTube for sure has one category on both of them that I get often: lightsaber stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I get lightsaber stuff, or I'll get stuff about Star Wars on YouTube. I really need to focus on Twitter, but my Twitter's kind of all over the place because I like everything.
Yeah.
They don't do as good of a job as kind of funneling you towards things.
Yeah,
Twitter is just Twitter. You just get everything.
Are your ads all over the place on Twitter? Yeah. My ads are all over the place because, well, aside from the fact that I randomly every few weeks reset my ID so that they can't continue to track that as a pattern, and the fact that I report every single political ad as either sexually inappropriate or hate speech or fake news or a fake account or a fake site. Ads for products I report as sexually inappropriate, hates. It could be Chef Boyardee, and I'd report it as sexually inappropriate just to make sure it triggers getting pulled off of my timeline. So my stuff is always all over the place. Or I get the generic single ad where I go to YouTube, and every single video will be a pre-roll of that ad and only that ad. I don't know how that winds up happening.
Yeah.
But it definitely it definitely plays into that one. So we took this one step further on a conspiracy theory thing, right? So my thing is, and I this conspiracy kind of bred its way out of information from China a few years back, because we know China itself has been utilizing cell phone technology in a wide variety of cool and creepy ways for many years ahead of us. So dating apps will actually ping you when an interested party of yours is within the area.
I think that's
ads,
cool.
For the right person, I
think it would be cool. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, your Tinder and Grinder.
I love technology though.
Yeah, so it makes sense for the conspiracy person in me, and this plays to the Twitter and Facebook and all of that, is if you're walking down the street and your RIF ID on your phone is triggering the bus stop advertisements, wall advertisements, CD, DVDs, LCDs, Times Square light up stuff is all showing only you see it, right? I mean, we could be in that type of technology. We already have glasses that you can look at the same TV and one person sees one thing and you see another. But you could be fed whatever that group wants to feed you. And so that's where we talk about if they funnel you. Now, again, and I'll admit it for the audience, if you say that you're more right-leaning or you say that you're more left-leaning, I have no idea what that means. I'm a complete idiot to those. I only look at the individual issues of things. But if they funnel, I say they like there's this foreign entity, but they being Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the advertising algorithm funnels you into one of those groups based on the videos that you watch. And what are they not showing you? I think that's where it just plays into me, is what is purposefully not being shown to you.
But they're sticking you into things that you're already interested in.
Right. So
you're being placed into these buckets, either far left or far right or whatever kind of bucket. For me, lightsaber enthusiast, apparently, because I get the ads on Google too. That I see those ads as well.
I think it's because I can be an optopessimist, but more of a pessimist. There would definitely have to be malice, malicious intent in the controlling of that information to sway a person, right? Or to sway a group. But that's why I say it's conspiracy theory, is this type of stuff introduces that as a potential. And it's not that it's not unfounded either. Look at Cambridge Analytica for 2016.
Right.
That that is some eye-opening crazy on the way that data was used. So I think that's where some of that venturing down the conspiracy path. One of these days we'll just have a show.
But it's still happening.
It's
still happening.
It is indeed still happening. So with Trump's order, let's jump. Let's get back to it. We got about 5 minutes or so. We can dig a little if we want. So protections against online censorship. It is policy of the United States to foster clear ground rules on promoting free and open debate on the internet.
Section 2.
Yeah, Section 2.
Yeah, Section 2. Okay.
Yep. So going into Section 2. So he's talking about promoting free and open debate on the internet. That is a good thing, right? I mean, we don't, but we don't.
Well,
what did we just deal with the FCC?
Let's just make this one thing clear. Trump didn't actually write this.
No, definitely
this is not how Trump talks.
Somebody took the ramblings of his tweets and turned them into this executive order.
Yeah.
It's like, it's censorship. Okay, so we're going to protect that. Let's write that down. Somebody wrote this in, of course. Yeah. I mean, you surround yourselves with smart people that I wouldn't be able to write this. Not dogged on him on that aspect. But so free and open debate on the internet. Well, that's fine. We have free and open debate on the internet. But that doesn't mean that we can tell private entities how they should be able to use their free and open debate on the internet.
Yeah.
So he loses there. It's a private entity. So if he
Yeah.
yanks 230, which is that what he ties on. Prominent among the ground rules of governing that debate is the immunity from liability created by Section 230 of the Communications Act. So what he's trying to do is threaten. This is actually, it's inducing fear to get them to. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this, but it's threatening the removal of 230 to try and make them be more free speech applicable by yanking away 230. Is that it? It's like, because we have currently free
ability
open
to be
debate on the internet.
protected from the lawsuits.
Right. So if we broke this down to something really simple, could you get on the internet and talk free and openly and debate on the internet?
Yes.
100%.
100% you can.
Now we run into the problem, and this comes to user education and knowledge. Can you do it on these platforms without them censoring or deleting the stuff you're saying if it falls within those Good Samaritan aspects around protections of civil liability on those platforms in question? I think it's still yes, but it is slightly a little.
But it depends. It depends on what it is.
Right, which is within those boundaries. So what we have is there is definitely a subset of people within the population who would not be able to even know how to get on the internet and not go to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or one of these other social media sites to have that debate. They wouldn't know how to launch their own website, which you can basically be as dumb and as stupid as you want because you own the .com.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean we pickle them into that mold of that difficulty. I mean, I really actually liked it when I saw him. I'm completely on the other side of this argument now, because when I first saw Trump going after 230, I had a very narrow understanding of 230 as its application between publisher and provider. And through the reading that I did today and yesterday and this week, and the laws now and the stuff we've been talking about, I'm on the other side of the freaking argument. He's got nothing. He's got nothing to stand on except for the fact that he has a presidential seal on a pen. And he signed an executive order, which for
overstepping.
Me just absolutely wasted a massive amount of time and money and posturing. But what does it do, right? He's going after the tech giants.
Right.
So if I resort myself back to the lesser knowledgeable at the start of the show, if people don't have this same understanding, he may have won their votes. People who are going to vote for him are going to vote for him anyway.
Yeah.
But folks who are on the fence may see this type of posturing, or folks who may have been looking at deflecting
are we? But here's what it is. Are there people on the fence? I don't know that there are. I think people already know the way that they're going to vote, and they've known for a while.
I don't know if anybody's on the fence about voting for either side. I think people are on the fence on whether they're going to even vote at all.
And that's the
scarier aspect.
That's the scary aspect, because that's what put us in this situation in the first place. That's
I'd
what's
have to look at that election again.
It's not just this election, though.
No, I'd have to look at 2016 again, because for me,
it's like all of them that led up to here. It's because society as a whole is not educated enough to be able to read between the lines and see some of these politicians for what they are. Not what they're presenting, for what they are.
I don't know what you're going to say they are, but I want you to say it. Say what they are. Say it. I don't know if it comes to. I mean, we've talked about better education in that aspect, because when we say people aren't aren't educated. It comes off. It doesn't come off, but it could be definitely conceived as, I'm not gonna say derogatory, but talking down. When we're not saying people aren't educated. It's people don't often go
I'm
below
not
the
saying
first
that
couple of
somebody
layers.
has to have a degree. I'm
Right.
saying that they are educated enough to learn about the government and
And the
learn
topics,
about the topics that are near and dear to your heart, because there's different laws that go out there, are different things that are passed in the Senate that they have little earmarks in there that people don't read.
Yeah. There's always bloat to everything that goes out, but it also plays back to local elections, which I think does go back to an education aspect, because I remember early, like, it'd be the later elementary school time and early middle school before we started going to the testing type of stuff, where we would go through interesting projects. It's like, you need to get the paper and you've got to read it for a week on this specific topic, and you're going to bring back a report around that topic. It may not have done that much, but it put me into the paper, and it put me into the press, it put me into the media, it put me into trying to dig in a little bit more. Then we had other folks, other teachers that were specifically along that. These are the people that are running, and we need to vote. And the way that she presented it to us was, I've got to vote for one of these two people for this political position coming up X date. Why don't you guys look at the candidates, pick one, and then try and convince me? And that was our whole assignment. So we had to research the issues. We had to try and understand these people. We may have picked them off of a personal bias, but then we were given the task of trying to convince her in a way. And in the result, we've indirectly gone through all of the issues that were facing the city at the time. We were living in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And actually had to dig a little bit. So was there a section 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 probably?
Yeah, I see I've already gotten a 5.
You've already gotten a 5.
9. Yeah. 6,
So policy of the
7.
United States that immunity should be clarified, and immunity should not extend beyond its text and purpose to provide protection for those who purport to provide users of. See, now this is where he leans me back to my lesser educated version at the beginning of the conversation, where his provide protection to those who purport to provide users a form of free and open speech, but in reality use their power over a vital means of communication to engage in deceptive or pretextual actions, stifling free and open debate by censoring certain viewpoints. So obviously he's leaning on that censoring conservatives bit, but then we play back into the free speech aspect of, he's saying if you're going to censor stuff, but then that just leans me back into what Section 230 actually means, and that is a good faith attempt. And I can't believe I'm protecting these assholes. Pardon my language, but I'm protecting Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Oh man, it's horrifying. So I apologize for the explicative slip, but if they are in good faith removing that crap, it does make me flip the coin in my head of me saying, what are they not showing me, to going, oh, what are they not showing me? What are they keeping off of my timeline so that I'm not scrolling through going, oh, you know what I mean?
And
or where you can't
I've
scroll
heard
through
some
your timeline on the couch because as your kid pops up and you're like, oh, you know what I mean?
And I've heard some stories about some of the stuff that's been flagged to be taken down on there.
Yeah.
Awful stuff.
Yeah. Dark web stuff.
Yeah. And this is stuff that's being posted on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that's, I mean, some of the stuff as us being fathers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult, I mean, the internet definitely brought on a whole new spectrum of where we are as parents, what our parents did to shield us from some things in the world, but still try and grant us an understanding. because of the internet, we had to get a bigger damn shield.
Yeah.
And in that aspect, oh man, I'm protecting these guys. This is just nuts. I'm on the other side of my argument.
But you have
But
to.
we
You
almost
kinda
have to partnership.
Yeah.
These guys have to be in. We have to be in partnership with these social media platforms in an effort of protecting volatile. I almost said volatile, but
So YouTube, you should pay us.
yeah, right. We just covered your butts. We actually just argued an entire executive order out the window for you. Checks, bills in the mail. General provisions, anything that popped up there. Nothing in this order is construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency. Oh, so everybody gets to keep their power, but we're going to mess with these guys. I don't think he's got anything to stand on. I think it's a waste of tax dollar time and money.
For having a fit.
Yeah. If he doesn't like it, leave the platform.
Yeah.
Leave the platform. Or use the platform. Keep posting it. Let them label your stuff. If you're speaking
intelligently and truthfully, then there should be no problem.
Oh, man. Now you got me still trying to straddle that fence a little bit and go, but and I start to lean back over the other side for another point that we just can't go to. Because then from there, I lean back to what was the source that we clicked out to on the validity of the content.
I saw it once. I don't remember where it went to.
Because who do we link to with COVID, right? I believe YouTube links directly for COVID information. I think Twitter's linking for COVID information directly to the WHO.
To the CDC.
Oh, so we're going to CDC, not even the WHO. That's interesting. Which actually I would prefer. I'd probably lean more to my interest and trust. I would probably if I had to hold the WHO and CDC on a platform of trust, I would probably trust more in the CDC, just the WHO being so much more of a political organization, I think. For sure. See where it goes. Next couple of days. I mean, the order signed. So what does this do? I mean, 8 a.m. tomorrow Eastern time, when the world starts opening back up with some goofy executive, which unfortunately I say goofy now because I just don't see the weight in it.
Well, this is what the Attorney General shall develop a proposal for the federal legislation that would be useful to promote the policy objectives in this order.
I'm going to go out on a limb on this one, but to me, this carries the same value as Beto and his attack on firearms. Could it yield some type of legislation? Potentially. But in reality, it just seems like grandstanding. That item, whatever validity it had in it, to some extent, whatever. But this one too, I feel they're both just an amount of grandstanding.
Yeah.
And it's.
But for what? That's the thing.
What's the value?
What's the value in it? I was like,
what is the value?
What is it going to do? Doing this actually will make social media worse. It'll open it up to be worse, I feel.
I wonder if it would kill it. I don't think it would go away, but
I don't know if it'll kill it, but we'll start seeing stuff that we don't want to see.
The landscape would just be drastically different.
Yeah.
Right. But then how does that lean into free speech? I'm a social media platform. I no longer have a C-230 protection. So I face liability because Jimmy Dum Dum posts something really stupid. I'm just going to delete Jimmy's account and send him a notice.
Mm-hmm.
You dum-dum too much dum-dum on our platform, bye-bye dum-dum.
Right.
Issue resolved. So then we come into overarching censorship where it's like, it's you wouldn't share a picture of your kid's graduation because it has your kid in it. It's like, oh, it's a minor, delete it. We don't want any liability that somebody showed a minor on a platform. It would just far-reaching implications. So I think we hit a lot of good spots on this one. Again, I think we expanded my perspective and thinking and definitely understanding more on law.
Mm-hmm.
And its application in the world versus the headline level understanding of things.
I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said with intention of the law and actual letter of the law.
What did I hear somebody say once? There's meeting the letter of the law and then actually fulfilling the spirit of the law. That kind of resonated really well with me. I'm not sure how to apply that.
This is just a pissing contest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's like, if we nitpick it, there's validity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how deep into that pool do we have to dive to find validity in this, aside from...
deep.
Yeah. He got called on the carpet of something, and it seems vindictive.
Mm-hmm.
Opinion. It appears that way on the surface, because when you really read into the law and you read into the executive order,
or just say, I don't know, maybe it's vindictive. I don't know. Could be.
It's a joke on the end of everything, and that resolves your liability. But maybe it's it's not a good. I don't think it's a good look.
No.
So on the facts, it doesn't seem like it has weight beyond the fact that it's coming from the White House.
Yeah.
I think that's going to draw us kind of to a close. We've got a couple of topics that we're definitely digging into. We're paying attention to what's going on in the states currently. We're looking at that and researching it. It is very heavy in that aspect. So topics for next week are kind of open. If you want, definitely drop something in the comments below.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at pretty much any topic, especially how it applies. We'll look at what's going on in the world and see where we go from there.
See where we go. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Come with us. And yeah, if you want to leave us comments. Even live, we'll talk to you about them if you have some questions, anything. But thanks for checking us out. I'm Pinche.
I'm the Gringo.
See you later.
Night, everybody.